How deep are your roots? I read a quote recently that stated, "The world is filled with mothers and her children." And that's not to say that dads don't matter, because they do, but a mother carries life into this world, and that carries weight. Jeremiah 17:7 says, "Blessed are those who trust the Lord, whose confidence is in Him. They will be like trees planted by the water, sending out roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green, and it has no worries of a year in drought and never fails to bear fruit." How deep are your roots? A maple tree grows fast, tall, beautiful, established, and produces lots of shade, but her root systems are shallow, superficial, just below the surface, and so shallow that you can even see them at times whenever you're walking through the yard, spreading out across the yard instead of going deep into the ground. But when a huge storm comes, she is easily uprooted. But an oak tree, she grows steady, slow, not always the first pick whenever picking out trees to plant, but her roots grow downward, reaching the water source that most roots won't take the time to go to. But when a storm comes, she may lose some branches and leaves, but she remains grounded. How deep are your roots? Because this isn't about trees, this is about when life hits you hard. When the storm comes, when your child becomes that drug addict or that local at the watering hole, when your child strays away, your marriage is falling apart, you get that foreclosure notice or you can't pay that bill, how deep are your roots? When you get that diagnosis or that prayer isn't answered, or as a mother, your worst nightmare becomes your reality. March made 4 years since my little girl, who was 3 years old, unexpectedly passed away. And prior to her passing, I thought I had deep roots. I served. My children were being brought up into the church. I fasted, I prayed, I taught my 3-year-old how to pray. I checked out all the boxes. If I was to go back in time and tell myself how I would have grieved the past 2 to 3 years of Aurora's death, I would tell myself, "You're crazy," and I would have to say, "Yeah, we did a little bit of that too." I became so angry with God, I wouldn't even let people speak about Him around me because He betrayed me, were my thoughts. I don't know how many times I screamed up to heaven, "God, why? Why my child?" I loved her, I cherished her, I was teaching her about you, I taught her how to pray about you, and I watched you mend her broken body for 30 days in a NICU, only for you to take her away 3 years later. But there are children who are abused and sold, beaten and suffering, that death would be merciful for them. So why mine? Why, God? Why? I thought my roots were deep until this became my cry. The anger within me was so intense that I felt like I was going to catch on fire. And the way that I soothed that fire was by looking at the bottom of a bottle more times than I can count. But by the grace and mercy of God, I'm sitting here today. I was a maple tree. My strength was built on what was visible. I looked strong, I showed up, I served, I produced, I gave, but my roots for the living water of Jesus Christ were shallow, and I uprooted. But here we are 4 years later, and now I know that we need to be like an oak tree. Growth that is slow, not always pretty, but that goes so deep and searches for the living truth and the living love of God. Have roots so deep that when, not if, but when the unimaginable happens, you remain rooted. When that mountain does not move or that fire is blazing, because it will come, you want to be able to say, "God, I don't understand it. I am angry and I am hurt, God. But you are still good. You are still good in this storm, and I might not see how right now, but something good is going to come out of this pain, because that is your promise, that weeping may endure in the night, but joy comes in the morning." How deep are your roots? Be rooted in truth and not in appearance. Build your depth in private with scripture, prayer, fasting, and surrender. Don't rely on your circumstances to remain steady, because when that unimaginable storm comes, it's going to test your roots. There's a reason Jesus had so many teachings on picking up your cross. Shallow roots want comfort and ease, but deep roots will give you the endurance to pick up the cross daily. So are you a maple or are you an oak? How deep are your roots?